Hi guys, it's April and I garden down in southeast Nebraska, zone 5B. It is December and so I'm starting to think about what next year's garden is going to look like. I did do my seed haul for next year. I will link that video up above and down below in case you're interested in some of the new stuff that I've picked up. However, I also started thinking about the things that I don't think I'm gonna do in this next year. Some of it is because maybe things just didn't go well. Some of it is I just didn't enjoy the produce from it. And others is just, well, it didn't really make sense. So I am just going to start at probably the easiest decision I have made so far in my gardening life. This is going to be my third year gardening. There are some things I picked up because they're in every single garden. They're easy and everyone was talking about them. I'm like, well, maybe if I grow them and I learn how to use them, maybe I'll enjoy them. But that was not the case. I've got a couple of varieties of cucumbers that I'm going to put in my retired pile. This is the lemon cuke and the Richmond green apple. There's nothing wrong with these. I just don't like cucumbers. I have tried them so many different ways. I've tried them fresh, I've pickled them, I've made them into jelly. The only way I actually ended up enjoying these were as jelly, but now I have like this huge stockpile of jelly in my pantry, and about 75% of what I produced in the garden I ended up giving away. So I'm going to let these seeds go to someone who wants them. I'm probably not going to plant any in my garden this coming year. If my stock of cucumber jelly runs down, maybe the next year I will grow some of my munchers or my burbless cucumbers. I'm keeping those seeds because I did enjoy those kind of cucumbers better than some of the other varieties I've tried. And I do know that the dogs and the guinea pigs enjoy them every now and then. So I'm saying this with a little asterisk that right now I'm not planning on putting any cucumbers in my garden. But if a plant shows up, you know what happened. The next decision I made after 2 years of attempting to grow them is tomatillos. I actually got a couple of tomatillos this past season, like 3 or 4. I don't even remember at this point. But I have struggled so hard with tomatillos because part of it is you have to keep 2 plants so that they can cross-pollinate on you, and they just kept on dying on me, and it was very late in the season when we finally actually got some. We didn't get a lot, and I didn't enjoy the flavor. They're a lot like ground cherries to me, and I don't enjoy the flavor of ground cherries. My husband does, which is why I'll continue to grow ground cherries, but he didn't particularly see the reason to keep trying for tomatillos if he had the ground cherries instead. So I'm making the decision that tomatillos is not something that's going to be prevalent in my garden. It's probably never going to show up again. I say that now, also with an asterisk, because sometimes I make rash decisions and there's something very pretty that I want to try, but I'm pretty sure tomatillos are out. I also have a couple of tomato varieties that I've decided that moving forward I'm not going to try for anymore. And honestly, I should have known this going forward from my experience the season before, that this probably wasn't going to be a thing that I enjoyed. And the first one is the Hartman's yellow gooseberry. This is a very prolific plant. It produced beautifully. It produced a lot. However, I did not enjoy the size or the flavor of these tomatoes compared to some other plants that I have in my garden and I have seeds for. I'm starting to realize that while some of the smaller cherry tomatoes are the first producers, I'm just not drawn to them, which explains why the blue creamberries and the blueberries are also things I am not going to plant next year. These are they're too small for me to enjoy thoroughly. I mean, they make sense in like salads and things like that, but there are bigger cherry tomatoes that I prefer more because I can then in turn maybe ferment them, or I can they just have more mass to them, and I'm finding that I like the tomatoes with a little bit more mass and they're a little less complicated to deal with. I guess not very complicated. These also have a tendency to like take over all the other tomatoes because they're just so fast growing and they produce so much. So these are moving on. And the last kind of decision that I've made about the garden at this point, as I'm sitting in my house in the middle of December and I haven't actually gone into growing season, is this past couple of seasons, there's a strip of bed that I have grown peas and beans. In this past year, I've grown some tomatoes in ground underneath the steps of my deck. It gets a ton of sun because it's on the south side of the house. So it was never really a sun issue there. But because I was growing in ground, it was a lot more susceptible to bugs and things like that, and also my dogs. So I made the decision to put some really low raised beds so that I can amend the soil and I can build that nutrient level up, and I can also give a little bit of separation from animals and other pests. So I do have a video of me putting those beds together. They're not filled yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that kind of changes how I grow in that space. And I'm really kind of excited about it. So that was a decision that I pretty much made halfway through the year, and I'm excited just to see how it goes next year. Now there is one final thing that I do want to add to this list, and it's just a silly thing. I wasn't even going to put it on this list because it's like, well, yeah. My dog has developed an affinity for strawberries. And this past year, I had some extra strawberry plants that I put into smaller pots, and I had them scattered around my landscape. That was the biggest mistake I have ever made. He was getting the strawberries before I could ever get the strawberries, and the strawberries were not meant for him because I don't get a lot of strawberries as it is. So I'm going to try and remind myself as I am refilling out the strawberry bed as needed that if I get extra plants, I'm going to either put them in taller planters that he can't get into, or I'm going to put them in a space that he doesn't participate in, if that makes sense. It's a silly thing to add to my list, but I figured since I'm making this list and I'm trying to give myself some mental notes about next year that I should probably remember that one, because I was very sad about my lack of some strawberries, because there were certain ones that I was specifically watching to hit the ripest point so I could just enjoy them, and I turn around and he's munching on them. I love my dog most of the time. So those are just some things that I'm switching up a little bit for next season, some things I'm not going to do, and all of those thoughts that I'm having as I'm sitting here. Now I know things are subject to change, and as I continue to get the seed catalogs coming in, I don't think I'll be buying any more seeds. At least I hope I'm not going to be buying any more seeds, because I've kind of got a game plan and I've kind of got a stockpile of seeds that I'm comfortable with at this point, entering my third season. But there's also you guys. You guys always have some interesting finds, some interesting recommendations and techniques and thoughts. So I would love to hear what you guys are growing next year or aren't growing next year, the things you're changing up, how you want to flourish in your garden in the coming season. Tell me down below. I would love to start a conversation with you guys. And of course, I do have an Instagram account if you want to go and follow that. I like to do some of those like off moment pictures over there. It's a little slow right now because of course we are in the middle of the lull, the rest period. But pretty soon I'm going to be starting my seed tape. I'm going to be resetting up my grow setup because I've got a whole bunch of new lights that I've purchased and I need to set those up. And then we're going to be into the seed starting season. And we're going to just kind of see how it goes from there. So if you want to keep up with all of that, you can follow me on Instagram, or you can subscribe down below to get notifications of when I do videos on some of that kind of stuff. Because I think I do want to do a video on my seed tape. I haven't kind of figured out how I want to do that video yet, but that will probably be coming up soon. Otherwise, I hope to see you again next video, and at Heart to Beautiful Faces.